Was Suleyman the greatest sultan of all time? There are limited sources regarding Suleyman's birth date. However, it is nominally accepted that he was born between late 1494 and early 1495. Suleyman the Magnificent hails from a rich ancestral background. He was the only son of Sultan Selim I, who was the first Ottoman Sultan to officially claim the title of Caliph, following his conquest of the Mamluk Sultanate in 1517. Meanwhile, his mother was Hafsa Sultan, who was the daughter of Menli Giray, the Khan of the Crimean Tatars, in which he claims direct descendant to Jochi, the grandson of the renowned conqueror Genghis Khan. However, other historians disagree, seeing this as a weak claim, believing that she was most likely a slave of Circassian or Georgian origin. Suleyman began his political career at the age of 14 in 1509, when he was appointed as the governor of the Ottoman province of Kaffa in the Crimean Peninsula. And 4 years later, in 1513, he was appointed as the governor of Manisa, which is located in the western parts of Anatolia. However, historians note that he actually spent most of his time at Edirne, guarding the Rumelia province. It was during these times as a provincial ruler that he gained sufficient practice and experience for when he assumed the sultanate later on. Throughout Ottoman history, the practice of fratricide was prevalent amongst the many contenders for the sultancy, though this was not the case for Suleyman, who had no brothers to challenge him while on his ascension to power. Furthermore, his father had eradicated any potential threat to his own ascension to power in 1512. And on the 30th of September 1520, 8 days after his father Selim I passed away, he was crowned as the new sultan. Upon reaching Constantinople, he was welcomed by the Janissaries, who clamoured him with gifts. This officially began the rule of Suleyman the Magnificent. Immediately upon ascending to the throne, Kadberedi Ghazali, the Beyler Bey of Damascus during the reign of Sultan Selim I, had begun a revolt following his death. In response, Sultan Suleyman I assigned troops under the command of Ferhand Pasha to suppress the rebellion. Upon hearing the news of Selim I passing away, the European powers hailed this news with resounding relief. However, this was short-lived, as Suleyman the Magnificent was a fierce conqueror who had plans to further expand the Ottoman Empire into Europe. Beginning in mid-1521, preparations were made to conquer the Kingdom of Hungary, which was in ruins at the time, as the Hungarian nobility were divided into numerous parties, as well as the fact they were without a strong central government. Therefore, it was unable to unite the defences of the country. In late June 1521, the war began against the Kingdom of Hungary, following an Ottoman force estimated to be at 100,000 men. Immediately on the 7th of July, the Ottomans captured the Serbian city of Sabak, and in late August, the Ottomans successfully besieged Belgrade, a vital city in Christendom. Within a year of ascending to the throne, Suleyman successfully carried out an enterprise that his two predecessors failed to do so, as the last important barrier had been removed from the Danube route into the northwest of the continent. In 1522, Suleyman undertook and accomplished the conquest of the island of Rhodes, just off the southwestern corner of Asia Minor. Beginning on the 18th of June, the Ottoman fleet sailed from Constantinople to the island. Estimates vary, as some sources suggest it was only 300 men, while others state there was around 10,000 men on board. This was done under the orders of the vizier Mustafa Pasha, who was appointed as the commander-in-chief of the expedition. The siege officially began on the 29th of July when Suleyman guided a 100,000-strong army against the Knights Hospitaller and the Kingdom of Venice. This conflict would last for around 150 days, when Rhodes finally fell to the Ottomans by late December of 1522. However, over the next 3 years that followed the capture of Rhodes, Suleyman was content to rest on his laurels, in which there was no major conflicts that occurred. And it was not until 1526 when the Ottoman Empire engaged in another campaign against the Kingdom of Hungary. Starting on the 23rd of April, Suleyman, accompanied with Ibrahim and two other viziers, departed Constantinople with over 100,000 men and 300 cannons. And it took more than 120 days to reach the enemy at hand. When they met the Hungarian forces at Mohacs, they were estimated to be numbered at around 25 to 40,000, The battle lasted one day, commencing on the 29th of August, in which the Ottomans emerged victorious. This marked the collapse and the partition of medieval Hungary, bringing an end to the Ottoman-Hungarian Wars. Furthermore, 3 years later, in 1529, the Ottomans decisively marched through the valley of the Danube and regained control of Buda. Though, despite these successive victories, this streak was about to come to an end in the same year in 1529. As the Ottomans set their sights on taking Vienna, another important city in Christendom, in which at the time it was under the Holy Roman Empire, beginning in the spring of 1529, Suleyman mustered a large army in Ottoman Bulgaria with the aim of securing control over all of Hungary at its new borders by Ferdinand I and the Holy Roman Empire. Estimates of Suleyman's army vary widely, from 120,000 to more than 300,000. While they were on their way to Vienna, they faced resistance from the local farmers, peasants and civilians, determined to repel the inevitable attack. Furthermore, when the Ottoman army arrived in late September, they were depleted due to the long advance into the Austrian territory, as Suleyman was short on camels and heavy artillery. Added, many of his troops arrived at Vienna in poor health due to the long march during the worst of the wet season. Initially, Suleyman tried to offer a surrender to the city so that the Ottoman army could capture the city peacefully without any bloodshed, though this was rejected, leading to the siege of Vienna beginning on the 27th of September 1529. The Ottomans tried to capture the city, though it resulted in failure. There are various factors that contributed to this defeat, one of them being the complications that arose from transporting such a large army from Constantinople to Vienna. Another reason was that the Ottoman attempts to besiege the defences of the city were half-hearted. Thirdly, the weather and the terrain at the time of the year proved costly, as it halted their attempts in a successful siege. Upon these factors amalgamating, the Ottoman forces began their retreat on the 15th of October 1529. Added, on their way back to Constantinople, they were harassed by enemy cavalry as well as suffering from poor weather conditions. Though this failure did not stop the Ottomans, as they attempted a second capture of the city. This began in April 1532, when a 100,000 strong Ottoman force marched towards Vienna. Instead of going the usual route towards the city, Suleyman decided to go another way. When he turned westwards into King Ferdinand's Hungarian territory, the Ottoman army on their way to Vienna had briefly captured 17 fortified towns or castles. Ferdinand subsequently withdrew his army, leaving only 800 men with no cannons and a few guns to defend Kozek. It was a small town located south of Sopron and only a few miles away from the Austrian border, in which they subsequently began a 25-day-long siege of the town. Despite having no artillery, Captain Nikola Jurisic and his garrison of 800 Croat soldiers held out against the 19 full-scale assaults and an incessant bombardment by the Ottomans. Suleyman offered a surrender on favourable terms, though Nikola rejected it, eventually leading to the Ottomans withdrawing at the sight of the August rains, though the Ottomans were to taste success again but in the Near East. The Shia Safavid Empire were one of the main enemies of Constantinople due to their systematic oppression of the Sunnis as well as their differing religious ideologies. Previously, under Selim I, the Battle of Chaldiran took place, in which the Ottomans sacked the Safavid capital of Tabriz. Furthermore, the Safavids had been engaged in discussions with the Habsburgs for the formation of a Habsburg-Persian alliance that would attack the Ottoman Empire on two fronts. The First Perso-Ottoman War began in 1532, when the Ottomans recaptured Bitlis after the governor had defected and even sworn allegiance to the Safavids. The Ottomans continued their advances and were able to capture the legendary city of Baghdad in 1534. This was after Shah Tahmasp I killed a governor that was pro-Suleyman and implemented one that was pro-Safavid. Despite the fact that the city was sacked by the Mongols as well as Tamerlane, it still held significance in the Islamic world. Baghdad was taken with ease, as there was no resistance due to the fact that the Safavid government had fled and left the city undefended. The following year, in 1535, Suleyman made a grand entrance into Baghdad. He enhanced his local support by restoring the tomb of Abu Hanifa, the founder of the Hanafi school of Islamic law, to which the Ottomans adhered to. However, in the same year of 1535, the city of Tunis was captured by Charles V, who led a 26,000-strong army under the Holy League banner. Vienna. Suleyman again changed his focus to Europe, where he decided to invade Moldavia in 1538. This resulted in a resounding success as the Prince of Moldavia, Peter IV, Rares, fled into exile in Transylvania, and Suleyman occupied the major cities of Moldavia, including the capital, Jassy. Suleyman subsequently appointed Stefan as the new king of Moldavia. Furthermore, he also occupied Suceava and Bessarabia. Throughout Suleyman's reign, he led several naval campaigns against the Portuguese in order to remove them and re-establish trade with the Mughal Empire. And it was during the same year, in 1538, that Suleyman's army captured the port city of Aden in Yemen. Over the following years, the historic region of Hungary was secured for Ottoman occupation. The Habsburgs tried to recapture the city of Buda in 1541. However, Suleyman took personal command of the Ottoman relief army, reaching Buda and successfully removing the Habsburg threat. Suleyman then annexed Hungary to the Ottoman realm and appointed Isabella as the Queen Regent of Transylvania. In the same year, in 1541, the Spaniards led an unsuccessful expedition into Algiers, in which the Ottoman tributary state emerged victorious in defending the attack. In August 1543, the Ottomans succeeded in the siege of Estegrom, which was followed by the capture of 3 Hungarian cities, providing better security for Buda. This included Székesfehérvár, Siklos, and Szeged. A second campaign against the Persians occurred between 1548 to 1549. As in the previous attempt, Tahmasp I avoided confrontation with the Ottoman army, in which he instead chose to retreat, using scorched earth tactics in the process. This was done to expose the Ottoman army to the harsh weather conditions of the Caucasus. Suleyman abandoned the campaign with temporary Ottoman gains in Tabriz and the Urmia region, a lasting presence in the province of Van, control of the western half of Azerbaijan, and some forts in Georgia. In August 1551, the Ottoman commander Togrot Reis attacked and captured Tripoli, which had been in possession of the Knights of Malta since 1530, and 2 years later, in 1553, Togrot Reis was made the commander of Tripoli, making the city an important centre for piratical raids in the Mediterranean, and the capital of the Ottoman province of Tripolitania. In 1560, a powerful navy force was sent to recapture Tripoli, but that force was defeated in the Battle of Djerba. In 1552, Suleyman returned his focus to Eastern Europe, laying siege to Eger. This was located in the northern part of the Kingdom of Hungary, though Istvan Dobo led the resistance and repelled the Ottoman attack and defended the Eger castle. During Suleyman's reign, the Ottomans' war with the Safavids lasted for over 20 years. It finally came to a close following the third and final campaign by the Ottoman Sultan in 1553. Despite initially losing territories in Erzurum to Shah's son, Suleyman retaliated by recapturing Erzurum, crossing the upper Euphrates and laying waste to the parts of Persia. The Shah's army continued its strategy of avoiding the Ottomans, leading to a stalemate from which neither army made any significant gains. And it was not until 1555 that the Ottoman-Safavid War ended following the Peace of Amsaya. This set out the new borders of the Ottoman Empire and the Safavid Empire, in which the Ottomans gained Western Kurdistan, Western Armenia, and Western Georgia. They also obtained most of Iraq, including the legendary city of Baghdad, while the Persians retained their former capital Tabriz and all of their other northern territories in the Caucasus, and as they were prior to the wars, such as Dagestan and all of that what is now Azerbaijan. Furthermore, the treaty declared the Ottoman protection of Persian pilgrims to Mecca and Medina and the Shia holy sites within Iraq. Lastly, the Ottomans demanded the Safavids to end the ritual cursing of the first 3 Rashidun caliphs, as well as the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aisha radiallahu anha. In 1566, during Suleyman's last year as Sultan, he again set forth towards the city of Vienna. However, following Zrinski's success upon a Turkish encampment in Siklos, the Sultan decided to retaliate and attack Zrinski's fortress at Szeged in order to eliminate the threat. This led to the siege of Szigyetvár, in which the Croatian commander, Nikola Sobić Zrinski, died. However, due to the prolonged resistance by the Croats, there would not be a chance for further success towards Vienna, as the onset of winter was close. As a result of holding the title of Caliph, Muslims across the world would request support to the Ottoman Sultan against their enemies. One such example was between 1526 until 1543, in which Suleyman stationed over 900 troops to fight alongside the Somali Adel Sultanate in Ahmed ibn Ibrahim al-Ghazi conquest of Abyssinia. During the Italian Wars in 1542, Francis I sought to renew intermittent Franco-Ottoman alliance due to having a common enemy in the Habsburgs. In early 1542, Pauline successfully negotiated the details of the alliance with the Ottoman Empire, promising to send 60,000 troops against the territories of the German king Ferdinand, as well as 150 galleys against Charles, while France promised to attack Flanders as well as harass the coasts of Spain, as well as sending 40 galleys to the Ottomans for their operations in the Levant. When the Indonesians also requested Ottoman support, one such example was in 1564 when Suleyman received an embassy from Aceh, a sultanate on Sumatra in modern-day Indonesia, in which they requested Ottoman support against the Portuguese. As a result, an Ottoman expedition to Aceh was launched, which was able to provide extensive military support to the Acehnese. Due to Suleiman's various qualities, he was given many names by his contemporaries. His most renowned name was the Magnificent, but he was also dubbed the Lawgiver throughout Ottoman history. Prior to his reign, the empire had a complex system of laws, including religious laws, traditional Turkish laws, and local laws of conquered lands. However, the Ottoman Empire was an Islamic state ruled by Sharia, which was unalterable as it was legislated by God. In an attempt to unify and balance all forms of law, in conjunction with an increase in focus in building his empire within. This was caused by the fact that the Ottomans were overstretched, due to the fact that Suleiman brought the empire to its territorial peak. The legal reforms introduced by Suleiman were significant as they brought about a standardization and unification of laws throughout the Ottoman Empire. Firstly, he commissioned a group of legal scholars to compile a new legal code known as the Kanun-i Osman, the Ottoman laws, which codified Islamic law and created a system of justice that was based on merit and competence rather than social status. The canon served as a binding legal framework that consolidated his power as well as the power of the state. It covered areas such as criminal law, land tenure, taxation, and civil matters. The Sultan also centralized the Ottoman government and created a more efficient system of administration. He reorganized the Ottoman bureaucracy and created a system of provincial governors and established a system of taxation that was more equitable and efficient. In addition to creating a unified legal code, Suleiman also introduced new legal institutions. He established a network of courts throughout the empire which were tasked to enforce the canon law. These courts were presided over by judges appointed by the Sultan himself. Suleiman also created the position of Sheikh al-Islam, the highest religious authority in the empire, who was responsible for interpreting Islamic law. He reorganized the Janissary Corps, the elite infantry units that formed the Ottoman Sultan's household troops and bodyguards, introducing strict rules regarding their recruitment and training. He also reformed the administrative system, centralizing power and reduced corruption. It was during Suleiman's reign that the Ottomans entered a golden age of cultural development. He supported societies of painters, architects, metalworkers, weavers, and ceramists. The most important group of artists belonged to the Society of Court Painters. This society was called the Nakashen, and its members developed designs that were applied to many different objects. The members of the Nakashen were responsible for the decorative themes and designs in all artistic products of Suleiman's court. The Ottoman government also supported the making of calligraphy, specifically copying verses from the Quran. Community of craftsmen, known as the El-i-Hiref, were imperial artistic societies. They were often funded by the Ottoman government, which facilitated the advancement of the arts. This subsequently attracted the empire's most talented artisans to Suleiman's courts, in which they came from the Islamic world as well as territories conquered in Europe, bringing a blend of Arabic, Turkish, Persian and European cultures. Furthermore, as a result of Suleiman's patronage of the arts, saw the Ottoman Empire assert its own artistic legacy, which was a breakaway from the previously heavy Persian influence. Suleiman sought to turn Constantinople into the center of Islamic civilization through a series of projects, including mosques, bridges, palaces, and various charitable and social establishments. Greatest of these was built by Suleiman's chief architect, Mimar Sinan, under whom the Ottoman architecture reached its zenith. Sinan became responsible for over 300 monuments throughout the empire, including his two masterpieces, the Suleymani and Selime mosques. Suleiman also restored the Dome of the Rock and the walls of Jerusalem. He also renovated the Kaaba in Mecca and constructed a complex in Damascus. However, Suleiman's legendary rule came to an end in 1566 when he died of natural causes on the 6th of September. This was one day before the Ottomans achieved victory at the siege of Sidgedvar. Today, Suleiman has left a strong legacy both in the Christian world and the Muslim world. His territorial expansion of the Ottoman Empire, in conjunction with the implementation of new laws as well as the cultural development within his empire, elevated his status throughout the world. Though, what do you guys think? Was Suleiman the greatest Ottoman Sultan of all time? Let me know in the comments down below.